turn my collar to the wind. This is how it's always been. All I've ever known is how to hold my own. All I've ever known is how to hold my own. And now I wanna hold you too. You take me in your arms and suddenly there's sunlight all around. Everything is bright and warm and shining like it never did before. And for a moment I forget just how dark and cold it gets. All I've ever known is how to hold my own. All I've ever known is how to hold my own. And now I wanna hold you, now I wanna hold you close. I don't ever wanna let you go. Now I wanna hold you tight. I don't wanna go back to that lonely life. Say that you'll hold me forever. Say that the wind won't change on us. Say that we'll stay with each other. And it will always be like this. I'm gonna hold you forever. The wind will never change on us. Long as we stay with each other, then it will always be like this.
There we go.
Hello, everyone. I'm going to pass it over to Chantell and Daryl.
Looks like we have all the technology working, which is wonderful. Our team here at the Citadel has had to learn and pivot, working with new forms of reaching out to our audiences. So that was just Jessie Van Ryan that you saw. She's our producer. She will be helping moderate today. So welcome. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. It looks like we're 126 participants strong thus far. So I can say that we are glad to welcome our largest audience since March the 12th. So thank you all for joining us. Daryl and I wanted a chance to reach out and speak with our patrons, our very valuable patrons and our donors and our stakeholders, to answer some of the questions we know have arisen over the last little while, and to just have an opportunity to chat with you about the Citadel and all the things we're doing to manage through and to plan for the future. So welcome, and we're just thrilled to have this opportunity to speak with you. Now, there's a little bit of housekeeping I've been asked to do. So to allow for the best experience on this format, what we're doing is muting everyone's microphones to avoid as much sort of background noise as possible, though, you know, we've all gotten used to sorted pets and children and things happening, so no guarantee that's not going to happen for Daryl and I, but we'll do our best to try and stay on message without a bunch of background distractions. There are a couple ways that you can reach out to us to ask us questions. So we do have, if you look at the bottom of your screen, there is a Q&A function. So if you have some questions that you did not submit in advance, we did get those questions. Thank you so much. All of you, it certainly helped us direct what we're going to talk about today. But if you've got some additional questions or things that pop up as we're speaking, certainly go into that Q&A box, and we've created placeholders throughout this presentation today to lean into where those questions are. Jessie will come back and she'll share us what you've been asking, and we'll do our best to answer them. There's also a chat option at the bottom, and the chat is a great place for if you want to share comments, if you want to have greetings to your fellow participants, share some memories about the Citadel. We're certainly love to see all of those things. And we will also leave the chat open for about 5 minutes after the end of the webinar to capture any additional comments and questions and proceed that way. So hopefully there'll be an opportunity for, notwithstanding all of the mics are off, to be able to participate and to get your comments and your questions. So we've set that up. Now maybe I can pass it over to Daryl.
Hello, everybody. It's so great. We're up to 140 people. It's so heartening that there's 140 people that would take time out of your busy day to connect with us and to talk about the Citadel. It means the world to us. Thank you for this. As Chantell laid out all the ways you can connect with us during this, but if a question comes to you after the fact and you want to reach out to Chantell or I, we'll make sure that our emails are also posted in the chat box as well. You can email either of us directly if you have a specific question that we don't cover today. I imagine we'll probably have another one of these at some point in the future to connect as well. But if there's ever a question, don't hesitate to reach out to the two of us directly. Okay, back over to you, Chantell.
There we go. So a number of questions that were sent to us in advance of the webinar, and the kinds of questions we've been getting, honestly, since the middle of March when we needed to close down our public performances at the theater, were around the impact to the theater. Now, obviously, the arts and sports and all of the ways we gather together as communities have been shut down for quite some time, and that has had a very big impact. And certainly the impact to the Citadel has been substantial. It impacted a lot of performances, productions, our team. But first and foremost, we want to make it very clear that the Citadel will survive this. We don't know how long this shutdown will be. It could be a number more months. We're looking at what's going on around us and in other jurisdictions. It could be longer than that, but we want to make it very clear that we have the ability to stand the theater up again once it is safe to gather again. And so that's, I think, a really important message that we want to share with everyone, because so many of you have sent your heartfelt concerns and worries about the viability of the theater. We're very lucky in that throughout the years, and we've been around since 1965. Actually, we can advance to the next slide. That'd be great. We've been around since 1965, and we're built to last. So our founding families, our boards throughout the decades, our donors have put us in a position that if ever we were to face something catastrophic, and I think we can all agree this has been fairly catastrophic on a global scale, that we would be able to come back and produce art. So we don't know when that will happen. And we know that there's going to be some changes that we have to look at, but we want to make sure that you know that we will be coming back. We will be bringing a season. When that season might start, might not be in the same time normally does. We're going to have to maybe juggle some things around, but we will be back to produce art. We will be back to connect with you and to create live theater in Edmonton. So that is what we want to say right off the top. The two things we're going to need from you as we move towards that journey are some patience and some faith. We need to build a bridge to that. So our long-term, survivability is assured. Our future is assured, but there is going to be a challenge between now and when that opens in terms of meeting some of our commitments and creating a bit of a challenge because our expenses carry on. And as all of our shows ended, and all of our tenants in our building, restaurants, a dental office, other theaters were put into the similar position we really lost all of our ability to make revenue on an ongoing basis. So we're digging deep into our savings, digging deep into our resources to ensure that our building stays intact and that we are able to provide certain levels of programming insofar as we can, and to make sure that we keep moving towards the future. So patience, because we don't know when this is going to end, and faith that we will be back. We will be putting on a season. We will be honoring your tickets. We'll be honoring your subscription, and please invest and have faith in our future, because that is what we are doing. So, it's very important to us that you know that. And I want to talk about how incredibly proud of our team we are. We are a live theater venue. We produce live theater, and we've been doing that for a really long time, and it's kind of what we know and what we do really well. when faced with the challenge of not being able to produce anything live, not being able to welcome audiences in, not being able to welcome our students in, or having our young companies rehearse live, our team has adapted and shifted to be able to provide some really cool and innovative programming, and to be able to look forward and to look beyond when we recover from this and how we can leverage that. So I'm going to put it over to Daryl to share some of the cool things that we're working on here at the Citadel.
All right, so I'm very proud to talk just a little bit about the artistic innovations that have been happening here during self-isolation. We as artists are pretty innovative folks, and it's been really great to see the response. So one of the things that we've been doing is our Stuck in the House series, and you might have seen some of those videos playing as you joined the webinar today. Almost as soon as the theater had to stop performances, we reached out to artists and offered them the opportunity to create work for us to feature on our website. So every day we've been featuring a new video by an Edmonton artist. Today we put our 40th video up, which is very exciting. We've had over 100,000 views so far, which speaks a lot to what a great community we have out there. We've partnered with the Edmonton Community Foundation, and so we're ensuring that each artist is paid for the work that they're doing, and we're also taking donations online, and those donations go directly to the artists. The Citadel doesn't take any of that. So if you want to support some of your local Edmonton artists, that's a great way to do it. We're booking acts into June now, so we plan to be doing the Stuck in the House series for a while yet, and it's been a really great way to partner with the Edmonton Community Foundation and to support our local artists, and to just bring you some really great art. It started as people doing bits from shows that were canceled, but now people are creating like pretty incredible standalone work. The other online thing we wanted to make you aware of is that the Garneau block, we're going to read the first act of the Garneau block as part of the National Arts Centre's Canada Performs series. So this week, this Thursday at 5 p.m. here in Edmonton, the cast of the Garneau block is going to gather via Zoom and read Act 1, and it'll be live streamed. So we'll post the details for how to link to that. But if you want to get a sneak peek at the Garneau block, that's going to be the best way to do it. And as Chantell was mentioning, one of the teams who's working the hardest here at the Citadel right now are our education department. Our education team has done an incredible job of making sure that there are still training opportunities during this time of self-isolation. So all of our spring classes have moved online. So our classes for young performers are all being taught online via Zoom right now. One of my sons is in one of the drama classes and is having the time of his life. So it's pretty incredible how quickly we adapt. The young companies are rehearsing online and are planning their performances to happen online as well. And through a partnership with the Edmonton Community Foundation, we just announced that in May, we're able to offer a whole bunch of free classes online for young performers of all ages. If you want to test what an online theater class is like, you can sign up for these for free. You take like a 45-minute to an hour-long class. It could be in musical theater or acting or puppetry or improv, but it's a chance for your young performer to try out their skills online and get used to it. And if they enjoy it, sign up for more. We're also rolling out some masterclasses for professional performers. So this month we're offering free masterclasses every Monday from great playwrights like Erin Shields, who's doing our adaptation of Jane Eyre, Hannah Moscovich, one of Canada's finest playwrights, Ravi Jain, and the team from Six, the musical, Toby Marlowe and Lucy Moss, who created Six. They're also doing a class for us. Those are all free, and you can sign up online through the Citadel's Facebook page, or we'll put the links up for you here. So just ways for us to keep connected with artists and with our community through these times of self-isolation. Okay, moving on. So the next thing that I get to talk about is our commitment to the art. So you can go ahead on the next slide, please, Mac. So to talk a bit about our shows and about our hopes and dreams. Through all of this, we have many different plans. The plans evolve each day depending on the new news that we're learning and how the situation is evolving. But through it all, we're committed to getting back on our stage as soon as possible to bring you great work as soon as it's safe for all of us to gather again. So to go back to sort of when things stopped in the middle of May and just sort of talk through where we're at. So our production of As You Like It closed a few days early because we had to close down. I think we've reached out to most of the patrons affected by that, but that production won't be back. So if you still hang on to tickets for that show, reach out to our team and we'll make sure that we can transfer those tickets into a different production or get you a refund or get you set up because that's not one that we'll be able to bring back. Although if you happen to be planning to go to Chicago or Milwaukee, that show will be playing in both of those cities sometime later next year. It's worth the trip to Chicago. I haven't been to Milwaukee.
Daryl, does that mean that you'll make sure they get tickets in Chicago or Milwaukee?
I can't.
If they fly there. I think I heard that as a promise, folks. I don't know.
Come to Chicago. Okay, and then the Garneau block, our world premiere of the Garneau block that we're so proud of, got to dress rehearsal. It was a beautiful dress rehearsal, and it ended up that many of the casts of other local productions whose shows had been canceled from the Mayfield or from the Opera or from our production of As You Like It, we all gathered together to see the dress rehearsal of the Garneau block, and it was really beautiful. And then after the dress rehearsal, we just had to lock the doors of the McLeod Theater and walk away. So that set is still up and the costumes are still there and it's waiting to happen. So that production is postponed, but it is definitely gonna happen. And it is ready. When we're able to gather again, we will ensure that the Garneau block happens as soon as it's safe to do so, because it's such a lovely production, and we want to make sure that that you get to experience it. So we'll make sure that anyone who has tickets for it already, those tickets will be honored, and as soon as we have a sense of what the dates could be for it, we'll start reaching out to you to let you know. Similarly, our production of Peter Pan Goes Wrong. We were a few days into rehearsal for that. We had only just started, but we had already built the set. It's big and beautiful and ready to go. And that's another production that we're committed to. It's just postponed. So the Garneau block and Peter Pan Goes Wrong are two shows that are gonna happen at the Citadel. It's just gonna be a matter of time for when we can get back together again. If you hold tickets, those tickets will be honored, and those will be two of the first shows up on our stage as soon as it's possible. A few of the other productions that were to happen last spring, or this spring, our production of After the Fire, which was gonna be part of our High Wire series, that production, unfortunately, can't be postponed. The cast is very busy doing other shows, so we've had to cancel that production. So if you held tickets to After the Fire, well, we'll reach out and make sure that we get those tickets transferred to a different production or get a refund for you, or you could donate the value of your tickets to the Citadel, which we would happily accept. Well, I will say that After the Fire is written by Edmonton playwright Matt Mackenzie, and we were working with Punctuate Theatre to present After the Fire, and it just so happens that we had already been planning to do another show by Matt Mackenzie and Punctuate, Bears, which was to happen this January. So if you did have tickets to After the Fire and are looking for something else to come see Bears. It's by the exact same playwright and team, a really great local company that we're really excited to build a relationship with. The other couple of shows that we had to postpone were part of our House series. It was Audrey Ochoa, who you might have just watched doing an incredible trombone octet with herself. It was amazing. Audrey Ochoa and also a production by the Philharmonic. Both of those were in the midst of rebooking for next season's House series. So if you had tickets to that, those are still going to happen. We'll just have new dates for those two performances sometime next season. Which ultimately brings us to, there will be a next season at some point next season. We're waiting for the go ahead on when we can gather and how we might gather. We may find that in the fall, we get the go-ahead to gather, but we can only gather in smaller groups. We can gather in groups of 200 instead of groups of 600. So what we're in the midst of looking at right now are what are the ways that we can safely proceed with performances in modified ways. And perhaps that means getting together in groups of 200 and live streaming the performance to your home for those of you that aren't able to come see it in person. There's lots of complications with that through sort of the actors unions for TV and stage, but everybody is in the midst of talking through what the possibilities are there. So we're looking at how can we make sure that that we are able to bring you great productions as soon as possible. That stands for both our main stage season, but also our high wire season that we're planning for next year. We may find, because those are smaller audience sizes, that those can happen sooner than the others. The one thing that we do know is that we won't be able to do any programming this summer. It's become pretty clear with the cancellation of many of the festivals here in Edmonton. And across North America. Yesterday, the Stratford Festival announced that they wouldn't be doing any summer programming this year. So we know that there won't be any summer programming this year. So we have officially postponed our production of Elvis the musical. We're postponing that until summer of 2021. So we've got the rights to move that a year later than planned. It's a pretty spectacular show, a pretty great script, and we're pretty excited to premiere it. It will just be one summer later than we planned. So we're keeping an eye on the fall for our programming in hopes that there may be some kind of hybrid of live and live streamed. As we get a better sense of what's possible, you will be the first people that we reach out to ensure that we're able to transfer tickets into new productions and that we're able to honor your subscriptions as we reassemble the season to make space for Garneau Block and Peter Pan Goes Wrong, which may mean bumping a couple of shows in the current season to later in the year or into the next season. But our priority is to make sure that those two shows get on our stage as soon as possible, and that we're able to bring you all of the great productions that we've been planning. Wherever possible, we're looking at this as a postponement as opposed to a cancellation. We believe in all of the shows that we've programmed, and we want to bring them to you. So wherever possible, we're just going to postpone things and get them to you as soon as possible. I think that's everything on my list, and so I think we're going to do.
We have the guest appearance from Jesse, and we're going to look at some questions that come up, and hopefully we'll be able to answer them. We do really well with ones that get sent in advance. We're going to be a little bit more on the fly with the ones that have popped up.
Perfect. Well, hello, everyone. I apologize for not introducing myself earlier. My mother would be aghast. I am going to now go through the few questions that we have had submitted thus far. And if we don't get to your questions in this break, we will get to them at the end. So the first question comes from Mary. And Mary is asking, is it going to be safe to attend the theater next fall?
Okay. I can share sort of some of the things we're working on. I think ultimately they're going to be, we're going to take our guidance for our public health officers. I anticipate that this is going to be a very slow and gradual ramp up to being able to welcome audiences of any size into the theater. So we are considering that ultimately until we have a medical solution, until we have a vaccine or a treatment, I think people are rightfully going to be nervous about gathering together. So we're taking that into account. Now, what we're doing is kind of a couple-pronged approach to that. One is we have a cross-functional group of people throughout our building looking at the journey of the various people that interact with us. So our patrons, our team members, our visiting artists, and saying, how do we mitigate risk of interaction? How do we change our facility? I think there's going to be some changes that we need to make physically to the theater space itself to account for the fact that, people don't want to be touching things. Do we look at temporarily or on a more long-term basis adjusting how our seating is and how we seat people with ticketing to create seats between. So we're looking at all of those kinds of things while there is still any risk. Some of those things will carry on past because, we're dealing with a new COVID-19, post-COVID-19 life. But I think that when we're looking at physical spaces and how do we make them hygienic and safe, that's going to be something that we look at long term. So I do not anticipate we are going to be welcoming audiences of any size until it is safe to do so. But we also are looking at that entire patron journey, no matter what, even after COVID-19 is hopefully no longer a threat, because we want to make sure that we're ahead of these things for future. We're also looking at some technical options, and we're looking for solutions that we can use this upcoming season, but also beyond, and how do we, all of this is how do we remove barriers to attendance? And that is, people not feeling physically or comfortable about attending and going shoulder to shoulder with other in the community, and perhaps looking at some being able to live stream or do things online. It's quite complicated. Daryl is wrangling various different parties that we have to come to some agreement with. We have to make sure we have the technical skills to make it a worthwhile experience for viewers, but we want to make sure that our subscribers and that our casual ticket buyers have an opportunity to take part in the arts at various different levels and removing some of those barriers. And we want, number one, we want people to be safe. So we're trying to figure out what are the best ways to make our patrons safe, changing our practices, how we take tickets, how we sell tickets, all of those things. How are our artists safe? How are we keeping our team members safe? And how do we need to change our facility and our processes and practices? So I don't know when it will be safe for us to come back together. I certainly hope for all of our sakes it'll be sooner than later. We're going to take all of our guidance from the public health authorities. They're the ones who know, we don't know, but we're working with a number of partners about how do we mitigate risk just on a go forward basis, not even just with this issue, but for future, so that we are getting people as healthy as possible. So hopefully that gives you some assurance and some answers about the kind of the work we're doing here at the Citadel to address that.
Along the same lines, a somewhat follow-up question. If we are able to gather in modified ways, but some patrons are still at high risk, will they be refunded if they choose to be, or if they choose not to attend?
Yeah, so we're looking at a bunch of different options. Certainly, we want to honor the value of people's tickets. So if we can't gather together, and if they don't like the other options, perhaps like a live streaming option where they can see live theater, but from the comfort and safety of their home, then absolutely, we'll look at, do we move their tickets forward to another show when they feel more comfortable, or, is a refund the right option? I will tell you just frankly, it is a real challenge if everyone asks for a refund for a show. It's a significant financial amount that would actually make it really difficult for us to build that bridge to our future, as I was talking about, because when people are buying their tickets, they're actually buying tickets for a show that we've already invested very deeply in. So if we are refunding money plus don't have that show going, it's a challenge. So we would hope that if there are other options to be able to support the Citadel, that our very valued and very dedicated and loyal patrons would say, okay, if I can't come in person or I'm not comfortable coming in person, there's other ways that I can attend and watch a show. And if it's not now, then maybe I push my tickets forward for when I do feel comfortable coming. Or if I'm not feeling comfortable coming and I don't want to watch online, maybe I donate the value of that ticket so that the Citadel can keep doing the work they're doing. But ultimately, if we can't deliver on the promise of live theater to you in a way that you're comfortable with, we're of course going to work with you and look at refunds. I will say, it is our fond hope that there is something else we can do, because if we were refunding for every ticket that wasn't be able to use this season, it would really put a significant challenge on our arts organization. And I think every arts organization is in that exact same boat. So something to consider when you're looking at your options, please, with fond begging from me.
Our next question comes from Charlotte, and Charlotte asks, can an individual in another province try the 3 free acting lessons? And if so, how would they connect to a lesson?
Yes, you can definitely. You don't have to be from Edmonton to take the free lesson. All of the acting classes are happening via Zoom. If you go to our website, or Jesse may be putting this up in the chat box as well, we'll have the link for where you can see the different options for classes and when they're held. And then there's a registration form right on there where you can just sign right up to be a part of it. We're happy for anyone from anywhere to be a part of this. It's one of the great things suddenly about being online is our reach is suddenly quite a bit larger. So please do sign up.
Our next question comes from Lisa. Lisa asks, Mirvish announced yesterday that their season won't start until January 2021. Are you working towards that too?
The Mirvish, when they announced, one of the big differences between Mirvish and us is Mirvish is a touring company, and we produce our own work in-house. So for Mirvish, because everyone's coming in from out of town or out of country, they have to plan sort of quite a ways in advance. The one thing they did say in the Mirvish announcement is that if they get a green light earlier, they can jump on starting Come From Away earlier, because that's a local, a more local company. For us, like, we're trying to keep all options open. We know that that literally the set for the Garneau block is up and ready to go. So for that show, if there was if it was safe to gather again, that show is something we could turn around relatively quickly without going through a full 6-week rehearsal process and building the set and that kind of thing. But inevitably for the rest of our productions, once we have a sense of it's safe to gather again, there will be a ramp up period that takes a while, where we have to get the team back together again and rehearse things and build the set again. So that would be a longer horizon for some shows.
Well, I think some of the challenges is with that, a festival like the Fringe Festival, very sadly, announced they weren't carrying forward, is they have to plan so far in advance. They're bringing so many people from outside, but also they have a one and done. They do their thing, and then they can kind of say, no, we're not doing it, and plan for next year. With us, it's a little bit more death by 1,000 paper cuts, in that we are watching our timing for every show that's coming up, and we're making decisions sort of in real time. So, we don't anticipate that we're going to be back before the fall, obviously, and what that might look like. But we have the ability to be more nimble and responsive, because we are building our shows, and most of the time we're dealing with a lot of local talent or people that can get here fairly quickly, and we can ramp up. So we're trying to maximize what we can offer, taking into account the reality of the situation.
Our next question is, may I have access to the recording of this session to share with my colleagues who are not able to attend today?
Well, yes. Jesse, probably you can answer that as well.
Sure. We're going to be posting this online on our YouTube tomorrow, hopefully by noon, if the tech gods allow. So you will be able to check out the Citadel Theatre YouTube feed, and we can also make sure that anybody on our email list can have access to it as well. All right.
Have we made it through all of them, Jesse?
No, not even close.
Okay.
There are quite a few. I'm just thinking about how we can craft these. So one question is, if plays currently scheduled for the next season are bumped in order to fit into the postponed plays, will we get refunds, since those people who buy seasons tickets would have already paid for both postponed plays and the bumped schedule plays? In the same vein, another season subscriber says, we were not able to see As You Like and have paid for next year's subscription already. How will all those plays be addressed? Will we be able to convert plays into donations, as all the plays probably won't fit into the next year? So
absolutely. We have a plan of how we're going to approach it. Of course, that plan changes depending on how long this takes, so it's a bit of a moving target. But obviously, if you're expecting to see, shows 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 1, 2 get bumped for 5, 6 of this past season, that you're getting something different than what you planned for. So we've got some options that we've been discussing about how to provide value for that. And obviously at the last, there's certainly an option for a refund, but we do have all sorts of other programming. So you may not be a subscriber to Highwire, and maybe you'd like to take some tickets to that, or to one of our musical, our musical presentations, or maybe you'd like to invite some friends friends to join you at the theater, and you'd like to trade your 2 tickets that you didn't use for 2 tickets to a new show, because wouldn't it be wonderful when we can all see each other again and come together and do stuff together? So we are trying to think of lots of options that allow us to preserve, you know, what we're doing at the Citadel. But certainly if a refund is the best and only option for you, that is something, when we sort of know what we're doing, we will absolutely do. But we are trying to think of ways that you, as our ambassadors and our supporters of the Citadel, can use those tickets to support us and spread the word of, like, live theater is back and needs all the people to enjoy it.
And because we're really committed to these productions, if we do end up having to bump something to make room for the Garneau block, our goal would be to bump that to the following season, so that we can continue through and see through those productions as well. So those tickets would continue to be honored, even if we're bumping for a season or 2.
And I think that's part of the challenge that we face, because we build things on such long scale, is that what we're asking for you to do as our supporters is to have that patience and that faith that we're going to deliver on that promise of live theater. It might be a much longer delivery time than we normally like to do, but we are going to deliver on that. We invest in our artistic programming. Daryl spends so much time, you know, building such these great seasons, that we are going to find a way to deliver on those promises, and we just ask you to give us some time to do that.
The last 3 questions I have in the Q&A box, and a few also came up in the chat box, which I'd like to get to, kind of circle back around the conversation about what to do if you have a question about credits, like whether, you know, if you had a ticket for Garneau block and for Peter Pan Goes Wrong, what is the method in which, or the mechanism in which, to communicate with the box office and to clarify what the next steps are? Someone also mentions, of course, that the physical office is closed, and I know that our colleagues are very busy with getting set up at home and that sort of thing. So I'll leave that to you two to talk about.
Certainly. Obviously, we don't have people physically in the theater right now. We have our team members at home doing what they need to do to stay safe and to keep the community safe. So we have very limited access to our box office. If you had tickets to something that has been postponed, you have a credit sitting in your account. So anytime you buy tickets to the Citadel, there's an account. And if you weren't able to attend that show because it didn't happen, that is sitting in your account as a credit. So there isn't anything you have to do right at this moment to make sure that it doesn't disappear into the ether. It's sitting there. We have record of you having it, of the show that was canceled. And when we have new dates for shows, you can expect we will have our team back, because part of the challenge is we don't have the team. We've had to say goodbye to quite a few of them because we don't have an operation right now in our theater. We don't have, you know, the number of people to answer all of the requests. So as soon as we know when we're opening up again, we will be staffing up, we will be ramping up and have new dates, and they will reach out to you proactively, though you certainly at that time will have more people to call, and picking new dates or deciding what you would like to do with your tickets. You know, if you'd like to take a credit for another show, if you want to come to the same show, you know, and choosing your date. So that's the mechanism for it. Right now, we physically don't have people in the theater, and we have very, very skeleton staff because, of course, the theater operations are shut down. We don't have any revenue, and we had to take some pretty rapid and mindful steps to be able to preserve our resources so that we can actually start up again. So we don't have the size of staff we normally would like to, but we will when we ramp up again, and they'll be happy to help you.
I believe we've got 2 questions left, unless somebody else sends me a question, which you're allowed to. Don't feel like you can't.
There is another question break.
There is another answer period at the end. So
chance.
These are my last 2 for this midpoint. Donna asks, I haven't renewed my subscription yet. What is the best way to go about doing this?
Okay. Well, it depends on how you usually, you know, if you're renewing and you do it online, I would say sending the, we do collect the mail. We have a very strange process to collect mail now. I'll tell you, we're learning all sorts of new things. But we do collect the mail, so if you're someone who normally sends it in by mail, you can scan and email it in to our box office supervisor, and they can give you a call. We have 3 people that are working on subscription renewals right now from the safety of their home. So we can certainly do that. Or you can always email me, and I will find some way to help you renew your subscription. We'll make it happen. We will make it happen.
Another question is, will there be a session like this for the community of theater artists?
That's a great question. There's a number. We have meetings within our staff and our related artists, and then I know through Azimuth Theater, they've been hosting. Is it weekly, Jessie? A weekly community check-in with theater artists. So there are a number of conversations that are starting to happen on a local level, and then we also connect on a national level with national theater artists. But yes, as we get a better sense of what our future will look like and how it will affect artists, we'll continue to reach out and have those conversations for sure.
Great. And the last question that we have, second last question that we have, the Citadel is one of our favorite places ever, and we actually booked our wedding in the Tucker this fall. As the limit on group gatherings is currently set to August 31st, we haven't heard anything or reached out ourselves. If it does need to be bumped for any reason, will we be able to leave our payment with you and reschedule for a later date rather than asking for a refund at this time?
Absolutely. We will always find a way for you to leave your money with us and to take care of you. No, absolutely. And that is, there are a number of event clients, particularly as we head into summer months. That's usually when we have a lot of rental clients that are all sort of playing the same waiting game that we're playing, whether it's for a social event like a wedding or if it's the dance school. So we know that as these restrictions get lifted, some of these things will be able to go ahead, some of these things will need to get moved, and we're going to work with all of our event clients to make sure that we're taking care of them, because obviously a very important thing for the Citadel.
Last question, second last question, and then I'm going to take a break and we'll do the rest of them at the end. Will the Young Company productions be available for live stream viewing?
Yes, we're in the middle of organizing all of that right now, but yes, the Young Company are rehearsing online, and we've shifted the plan to do their performances online, and we'll send out links and announce how that will be accessible, but it will be accessible online.
Great. And the last question for this session, for this particular Midpoint session, I am the host subscriber for 3 other individuals. Can I register the other individuals' names and emails so they can manipulate their own ticketing decisions?
I am sure there's a way to do that. I am sure I am not the person that has any sense of how to do that, because I do know that a lot of times people do buy in groups, so they buy with another couple. So I know that there is a way to do that. I would suggest sending an email to our box office. Again, you've got some time to be able to do that, because there's not a lot we can do with the team we have now to do any of that. But I know that you can split it so that they can then have their own account, and then they can decide what they want done with it. I'm just not going to pretend I would have any idea of how to do it, but I know it can be done.
Wonderful. And I did share the box office email in the chat, and we will do a follow-up email with all of the resources that we've shared today. That's it for questions at the Midpoint. So I'm going to go for now, and I'll see you shortly.
See you soon. If we can move on to the next slide, please, Mac. There we go. So I think this is one of our favorite pictures from Every Brilliant Thing, and from Citadel favorite, John Elliott. And really, we want to circle back to the message that we know how important it is for us as a community to beat this threat of COVID-19, and we certainly recognize our part in that as a theater, and we're committed to that, and we're committed to that on an ongoing basis in terms of how do we ensure that our facility and our practices are healthy. But we really do need our community to invest in us, and we invited you today because we need some ambassadors for that message. We need some voices out there basically saying, let's make sure we're investing in the community that we all want to make sure is there when we come out to there. And that's all arts organizations. That's music, that's our museums, that's our restaurants, the things that make Edmonton so awesome. We need to make sure that they survive. And we're one of those things that we like to think makes Edmonton pretty awesome. So we're asking you to invest in us, and that's with your subscription, with the idea that what you're buying may not look quite the same as what you end up getting. The timing may change, the shows may shift around just by nature, but we're committed to provide you with amazing experiences. This team is incredibly creative in how we are doing these things, and I think you're going to be blown away by some of the stuff you see. Daryl talked about young companies and the fact that they shifted from a totally in-person teaching and performing modality to totally online, and what an incredible opportunity for young artists to learn to shift like that, and that kind of resilience and being able to create in a different way. And we're doing that across the board, and we're looking at how do we change our online learning to then maybe reach out to northern communities and rural communities after this. How do we live stream to people who otherwise have barriers of coming to the theater? So wonderful things are going to come out of this, and I'm so always impressed at the way that our team can take really limited resources and create beautiful things that people love, and that's exactly what we're doing here. So you're not going to see a hard push on subscription. This is the biggest time of year when we're usually pushing subscriptions, but we recognize that there's people that are facing personal uncertainties, and that we are also facing programming uncertainties. But if you can invest in a subscription, that would mean the world to us, because you are voting in our future. You're voting for our future, which is really wonderful. We will be doing our usual spring. The usual has become unusual. We usually do have a spring fundraising campaign. We will be carrying on with that. And we've got some wonderful things that start with there's going to be a new Giving Tuesday on May 5th. But you certainly don't have to wait till May 5th. You can reach out to us at any time and offer support to the Citadel, because we will take every bit of support that you give us, and we're going to turn it into wonderful things as we move forward. And it allows us to be able to recover. And the recovery, I think, for all of our economy and all of our business and for the arts is going to be long. It's going to take some time, and it's going to take all of us as a community to make sure that happens. So we really appreciate your vote of confidence. We appreciate your support, and we're asking for it. We're asking for you to be ambassadors. We're asking for you to vote with your dollars, even though you know there's some uncertainty, because we're going to create great things with you. If we can move to the next slide, please, Mac. I did want to, again, we answered in some of the questions in terms of when will it be safe and what are the things we're doing. So I do want to reiterate that we have a cross-functional group working with some third-party organizations, including our Explore Edmonton, so they're the travel and tourism group, about how do we as a city, with all of our venues and our restaurants, hotels, all the places where people gather, what are the best practices, and how do we tackle our facilities and our practices and our processes to make sure that as a city we are a safe place for people to come and venture back into, both from Edmonton and when we can welcome travelers again. So that's something we're working quite diligently, and we've got a number of people working on. And we're also looking at the various infrastructure programs that are coming out and the ways to support Canadian business. And if we have to be dark for a period of time and there's infrastructure dollars available, then this is a wonderful time to be able to improve our facility beyond just the safety and the processes and the practices. But how do we actually take advantage of the time and the resources that may become available and improve the things that we've wanted to do for a long time? So, I keep saying we're going to have a wine bar in that theater at some point. So if you see a wine bar, that's just my personal pet project that we make happen. But looking at accessibility, looking at just the age of the building and what can we do to refresh it, and working with our various government funders and stakeholders that, as we're trying to get the economy back on track, how can we be part of that? How can we benefit from part of that? And how do we create a great facility and experience for everyone? So we're looking at those kinds of things. We're looking at all of our online programming and figuring out how to grow what we've had to do that has turned out to be so wonderful. So we will look for those shiny spotlights of joy in times that are uncertain, and we're excited about some of those things, and we would love to have you be partners in the Citadel's adventures in that way. So that's kind of, I think, all we have to share on that front. If we can shift to the next slide, and if there's any other questions we didn't get to, first time around, I see a few have popped up. You know, and I want to, have you seen some of the slides at the start? I want to give a big shout out to our sponsors, our season sponsors, Capital Power, Alcana, who's come on board with us. We've had such an amazing group of sponsors over the years that the first thing that their response was when this happened was, what can we do to help? And don't worry, we're going, you know, we're going to be there. And that means the world to us, because we need that kind of support. We need that kind of ability to be able to reach out into our sponsors and our stakeholders in order to move forward. And I just want to say thank you to all of you who have done that. It means so much to us, and it means so much to the team here at the Citadel. So.
There are no questions in the Q&A box, so if we leave it just for 1 minute, just in case there's anybody in the midst of typing. And then also, I just mention again that the chat box is open if anybody wants to say hi or have any other. If you can't figure out the Q&A box and you want to use the chat box, then go for it. I feel like this is my first webinar, and I can see what I'm doing now. And then we will leave the chat box open for 5 minutes after the webinar, if anybody has any lingering questions. But as Chantell and Daryl both mentioned, they are available if you have any questions that come up following the presentation. I'm going to share again their contact information in the chat box right now. And then I will be here manning the station for a few more minutes, just in case I can help with any other questions.
Oh, absolutely. Thank you so much, Jesse. Thanks, Mac, who's behind the scenes advancing slides. Again, thank you to all of you. Thanks to our sponsors, you know, Service, Premier Suites, EPCOR. Like, we have just been so blessed, and we know that this is a city that has the grit and hustle to get through this, and we're really proud to be part of it.
And check out Stuck in the House on our Facebook page. Lots of fun stuff to watch there.
Share with friends.
Thank you, everybody. Thanks so much for being a part of it. We really appreciate your support of the Citadel, and we look forward to bringing you some pretty fantastic shows as soon as possible.
Stay safe, be well. See you soon. We hope really soon.